poppin', y'all? It's your boy, Guard E3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. We are on the day 2 of our quadruple double, and we are ready to go. Of course, joining me, he is the cornerstone of the morning show. He is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great on a Friday, like you said. We're finishing up our double this morning, halfway through the quadruple double. Actually, for me, I might go a little bit further because I'll be on Monday as well. But I'm excited for it. We're getting ready to go into WrestleMania. We've got the NBA playoffs. We're going to get into that. So I'm ready. Let's get it.
Yeah, no, it's gonna listen. It's gonna be a busy weekend. You know how it is, Mo. We got WrestleMania the next 2 nights. We got the NBA playoffs starting. So I'm ready to go. I'm super excited. This is gonna be a fantastic weekend.
Oh, yeah.
But I figure why not take today and talk about this weekend? And I figure, we start off by the NBA playoffs. Now, obviously, here's the bracket. We all know already that the Magic are going to be matched up with the Celtics. The Warriors got to match up with the Rockets. So why don't we start off with talking about breaking down some of these first round matchups? Now, I know we don't know who the Cavs and OKC are facing. But I think we can both agree that regardless of who advances into the 8th seed, Mo, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference.
I don't think any team that comes out of the play-in, outside of maybe the Warriors, obviously, but everybody else, I don't think they're going to have any impact on the postseason. I just don't see that. Look, it would make for an amazing story if, let's say, the Grizzlies were able to beat the Mavs tonight, and then the Grizzlies did something that we don't foresee them doing, and they beat Oklahoma City in the front. That would be one of those internet shattering viral things that they pull off one of the greatest upsets in the first round. That being said, I'm going to go with conventional wisdom and assume that's not going to happen. But I'm still excited for the postseason. I think the most entertaining matchups in the first round, it might be the 3-6 matchups. Or you could go with the 7 with the Warriors going against the Rockets, which I think is very intriguing. On paper, the Rockets would appear to be they're the better rebounding team. They're the better defensive team. They have more athletes. They're just as deep as the Warriors. And yet, even though they're the 7th seed, I think the Warriors have more firepower offensively in terms of what they do by getting to the free throw line, the ball movement, body movement. For this to be a really good series, I think the Rockets' top scorers have to be a lot more efficient. I think Jalen Green's got to be a lot more efficient. I think Fred VanVleet's got to be a lot more efficient. Three of their 4 leading scorers shoot 40% or under from the field. They really only have 2 guys who shoot a consistent high level from behind 3. One of them is Dillon Brooks. I don't think they have enough shooting, and I don't think they have enough consistency when it comes to getting production from their wings. Look, their wings are terrific, but they're really defenders more than they are scorers. I would say this: if the Rockets could play fast and they can get out and use their athleticism, that would be another way to generate offense. You might disagree. I just don't think they have enough to beat a Warriors team that's not only got more firepower. You're talking about a Warriors team that, when it comes to basketball IQ, is probably one of the smartest teams in the NBA.
I think that, first off, shout out Carmike and Jory. Good morning to both of you. I think there's one factor when it comes to the Warriors that they will have to make sure they limit. One thing I don't think that got talked about enough for the Rockets is they had an absurdly really good and historically dominant offensive rebounding season, especially when Steven Adams is out there. like they're just scooping up all the offensive rebounds. I think the Rockets' key to victory is simple. I think that it's going to be tough. However, I think they're very athletic and versatile and defensively. And I think a big part of their offense is they're inefficient, but I think they almost make up for that by just being such an elite offensive rebounding team that it helps that out a ton. Now, granted, we're into the dog days of the playoffs, and two things that tend to disappear in the playoffs: offensive rebounding and transition opportunities dwindle. So I think for the Rockets, I'm interested to see if they can maintain the frenetic pace that they've been having on the offensive glass, which has kind of helped, overcome their, shortcomings in the efficiency game.
No, I agree with both those points, especially the point about them being a great rebounding team. I think they're the best rebounding team in the NBA. They're going to win. They have to make Steph more of a volume scorer versus him being very efficient. Steph Curry, he can't go 13 for 18, and he can't be 7 for 11 from 3, and you expect to win the game. I think that they've got to hound him, and they've got to make a choice. Are we going to put all our energy in taking away Steph and seeing if we can control Jimmy Butler? That would be one formula. On the other hand, you and I both know playoff Jimmy's a real thing. The Rockets are a very good defensive team, but Jimmy Butler is one of the craftiest, smartest players in all the NBA at getting to the foul line and generating contact. It would not surprise me if he averaged 9 to 10 free throw attempts per game for this series. If the Rockets are going to win, you got to slow down Steph. You don't have to stop him, but you have to slow him down and make him work. You have to make him work on both ends of the floor. But more importantly, you got to be disciplined defensively. You can't get into this habit where you fall for the Jimmy Butler pump fakes, the up and under moves. If Jimmy Butler and Steph are shooting 10 to 12 free throws a game, this is a really short series.
And I think the challenging part, too, for them is big part of that offensive rebounding is Steven Adams. But Steven Adams is also just a very matchup-dependent big. And I think if you try to trot him out there against the Warriors, it actually just ends up being a total nightmare. Because you know what? It's exactly what's going to happen. They're just going to – Steven Adams isn't going to want to come up to the three-point line, so what do? You give it to Steven Adams, man, and you start running handoffs with Steph, picking off his man, and he pretty much has warm-up threes at that point. So –
yeah, I think Adams is going to, like you said, he's going to play sporadically. You can't play him consistently versus a team like the Warriors. Steve Kerr sees him come out, and they're doing everything. They're going to start their offense from 23, 28 feet from the basket to make him play in space. Steven Adams arguably might be the slowest man, and I don't even think it's an argument. He's a big, powerful guy, and even before the injuries, he wasn't incredibly quick, but right now, this current version of him has no lateral quickness. You get him to turn one way, that's the way he's going. I really think that Golden State will exploit him every time he's on the floor.
So I guess my question for you, Mo, is who wins and how many games do you think?
I'm going to give the Rockets respect because I do think there's a formula for them to win. But I think the Warriors, again, I think the Rockets, when you go top to bottom, they're a little bit deeper. But the Warriors have the better players. Like you could say Steph Curry could be the best player in this series. Jimmy Butler could be the second best player in this series. Like that's not good. That's not a good sign. So I'm going Warriors in 6.
I was about to say almost a similar thing, but I'm going Warriors in 7. I think the Rockets do have a very fun way to just kind of slow down the Warriors' offense. They're tall, lanky, and athletic, and I think a big part of that's going to be, obviously, we all know what Amen Thompson is defensively.
Right.
And especially when that bench unit comes in with Amen Thompson and Torrey Eason, they just tend to grind opposing offenses to a halt because of their length and just overall energy and athleticism at that end. But I think at the end of the day, this isn't even really a slight towards Houston to say that the Warriors will win this series, I don't think, because I think it comes down to experience. I think we've seen Steph come through in big games. We've seen Jimmy come through in these big games. And I think that's a kind of a big reason that we're kind of doubting Houston a bit, because I haven't seen, Jalen Green in the playoffs. I haven't seen Sengun in the playoffs. These guys are just kind of new to the playoff picture. And normally these first trips just historically tend to be a little rough. And you're getting your matchup, your first taste of action against Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, who have tons of playoff experience.
Right.
I just don't know if that bodes well for them. So
I think that's where I'm going. That's why I don't think it's a long series. Look, Jalen Green is your leading scorer, but he's a volume scorer. Your leading scorer shoots 42% from the field, under the league minimum from three. So he's not an efficient player. And as gifted as he is in terms of his ability to get to the basket, he doesn't really attack the basket that often. He will settle for the tougher contested shot. Not many people's leading scorer only gets to the foul line 4 times a game. Not a good sign. And I think Sengun, as talented as he is, I've seen the Warriors play Houston, and I've seen Draymond Green get into his head. If they're going to be good, Sengun's got to outplay Draymond. He's got to establish that Draymond Green can't guard him, because if he allows Draymond Green to guard him, this is a sweep.
So yeah, it'll be definitely be interesting to see how this one plays out. I'm so excited, Mo. Like, my 2 favorite things are, wrestling and playoff basketball.
Yes.
And both of them just happen to be, WrestleMania and playoff basketball on the same day.
Wait, you're not excited for the PGA Tour? Really?
You know what? I might miss that one this year.
I miss it every year.
And of course, Mo, why don't we just go to the 2-7 matchup on the other side, Boston and Orlando. And I think this is going to be a kind of quick series, honestly.
It's funny because it's kind of similar to Houston and Golden State. Only the difference is Orlando, they have 2 booking forwards that are terrific in the mid post and can start their offense from 23 feet away. The problem is Orlando doesn't have a third guy that scores. They don't get consistent scoring from everybody else. What they can do, Brett, and we both agree on this, they can defend at a high level. So the Celtics, they can make the Celtics not necessarily as efficient as they normally are. The problem is, even if they do that, I don't think they have enough offense. Their margin for error is so small. I just don't see them making this a long series. I think both teams playing at the optimum levels. At best, this is a 5-game series.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to go Celtics in 5. At the end of the day, like, at least the Rockets can offset some of their problems because they have a lot of really elite rebounders. And when we flip to the Magic, it's just not the case. Like, Wendell Carter just genuinely might be the worst rebounder in the league at his size, and they can't really generate a lot of second chance points that way. They mainly have to do it off turnovers. This Magic team is one that defends the Celtics probably the best in the league. They're elite at defending the Celtics. They do it better than anybody. The problem is they just forget the other objective of, basketball at times is put the ball in the basket to score points. So they might hold the Celtics to the least amount of points, per game out of any round. The problem is if they can barely crack 100, it's just not going to be enough. So I got Celtics in 5. I think we'll get a random, Banchero Franz legacy game in like game 4 to save the series from being a sweep. But I think we're in for a gentleman's sweep on that one.
I agree. I think the bookend forwards are both going to have at least one breakout game and be able to pull out a win at home. Boston's going to advance to the second round.
All righty. We jump to the 3-6 matchup in the East, Mo. We got Knicks, Pistons. To me, this is a scary matchup for the Knicks because to me, the scariest team to face in the playoffs is the one that has absolutely nothing to lose. And Mo, I don't think the Pistons have anything to lose, so they can play free, fast, and kind of do whatever. Because if they lose in the first round, oh well, it's already been a great season. Whatever happens here is just the cherry on top.
No, I agree, 100%. Look, the Knicks have all the pressures on the Knicks. You're the third seed. You're the third seed in the conference. You went out and got Mikal Bridges, giving away 4 number 1 picks and pick swaps to get Mikal Bridges. You don't have the leeway to lose in the first round. You don't. Having said that, though, like you said, the Pistons come into that series with house money. Not only do they have house money, they come into that series saying, well, we beat the brakes off the Knicks throughout the regular season. What's to say we won't beat the brakes off them in the postseason? When you're that young and that talented, you don't know what you don't know. I have no problem saying I think the Knicks have the better starting 5. But I would tell you that the Pistons have the better top 9. And even if Jalen Brunson plays at his normal elite level, I think what Cade Cunningham can do will offset that. So the real question goes, who's going to win the battle of the others? And I think Detroit has a slight edge because they're just a deeper team. The Knicks go 6-7 deep top. I don't know if you can win a series with that thin a bench. Conventional wisdom tells me the Knicks are the 3 seed. I should take the 3 seed. I'm leaning towards taking the Knicks despite all their flaws because like what you pointed out with Golden State and Houston, in the end, most of these guys on that Knicks roster are playoff tested. They've been through it. Not a lot of that young core in the Pistons know anything about being in the playoffs. Maybe that's why veterans like Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, and Hardaway Jr. kick in and they help out that way. That's their value. I think this is the most intriguing first-round matchup in all the NBA. I'm going to say Pistons in 7.
I love it, honestly. And I think this is going to be an interesting, test for the Knicks.
Somebody said Knicks in 5, and I was like, wow. I mean, I'm not saying that's impossible. I feel like because Detroit is so young at their core, I don't think they come in there stressed, right? Don't you think they come in there like, we're just hooping, right? We're just hooping.
Yeah, and the thing with the Pistons is they can absolutely kind of, cut the head off the snake. And, Jalen Brunson, you know exactly what the Knicks want to do. They want to run everything through Brunson. So the Knicks, they're young and they're very athletic. They got guys like Cade Cunningham. They got Asur Thompson. And they can, throw, even just different, even someone like Tim Hardaway Jr. can sub in for, spurts on.
They got floor spacers with Tim Hardaway and Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley, I think, is like top 3 in the NBA from behind the arc, shooting about 42% from 3. He's been tremendous. Look, Harris has been good as in terms of what he can do at the 4 and the 5, sometimes in a smaller lineup. They have a talented team. I will say this. If the Knicks are going to win this series, you can't be so Brunson-centric that you don't take advantage of the fact that in that series, Karl-Anthony Towns should be able to eat in that series, right? With his ability to shoot and roll to the basket. To me, that should be a Karl-Anthony Towns series, but we'll see.
Yeah, and, that being said, I do think I'll go Knicks in 6. I think it'll be close. I think one thing that's kind of moved me a little lately is OG Anunoby's been getting hot at the perfect time.
He's been playing great.
And if, they can get great production out of Cat and OG, I think the key with the Knicks is I think their starting 5 is clearly just better than what the Pistons have. I know, I love Cade and what they do.
I agree.
But I think this is going to be one of those series where overall, the Knicks starting 5 will outperform the Pistons starting 5. I think the bench will be able to, close the gap, and it'll make, some really fun and close games. But, I'll still take the Knicks surviving into the second round, but I think it will be by the skin of their teeth.
Look, I'm with you. I go back and forth over this. One day I'm Pistons, one day I'm Knicks. Even right now, as you're speaking, and I'm going, man, that's a great point. I think I'm going to amend my pick at the last moment. I want to believe that Detroit can pull off an incredible upset. I look at them and go, they're a 6 seed, but it feels like they should be a higher seed. And yet, I trust that the Knicks are battle tested. and nobody's a bigger Jalen Brunson fan than me. I think that Cade might be the more talented player, but I think right now Brunson is the more proven and polished player. So I'm going to amend my pick. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Knicks in 6.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be a fun back. That might be one of those series where every game is decided by like 10 points or less. So yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And of course, Mo, your Lakers are facing the Minnesota Timberwolves in another. Listen, I will say this. I think we have a lot of great first-round matchups this year. I think Lakers versus Timberwolves, it's going to be another fun one. Mo, how do you see your Lakers doing here in the first round?
If this goes beyond 5 games, they should fire Redick. There's not a team that's that might be in the first round that should be an easier matchup for the Lakers than the Timberwolves. They are offensively struggled. They struggle. They just don't have any firepower. You got Anthony Edwards, then you got Julius Randle, and you got everybody else. And I do just mean they're just a bunch of everybody else's. They don't have any firepower, none. Naz Reid he can be tremendous off the bench. He also can disappear a lot of times from off the bench. They don't have any firepower. They have 2 guys that can create their own shots. That's Ant and that's Julius Randle. And it might come as a surprise. I'm not that big a fan of Julius Randle's. The first time Julius Randle plays great in the postseason, nobody will be more amazed than me. But the basketball fan in me, I would love Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards and the rest of the Timberwolves go, well, people think it's a foregone conclusion that the Lakers going to beat us, that they come out with a spirited attack and they're aggressive. I want Anthony Edwards to come out saying, nah, I think I'm going to be the best player in this series, and he goes for it. I want him to be motivated by the fact that Luka gave him work last year and that he wants to get some payback. Never mind the Lakers situation. That's what I want. That's just as a basketball fan. If I'm honest, and I'm looking at what they've done over the course of the season, the Timberwolves are one of the top defenses in the NBA, but they're a middle-of-the-road offense at best. And I think that you can play great defense, but if you can't score, you're not going to win games. So I think ultimately, when you're dealing with LeBron and Luka, who can both generate shots and set everybody else up for open looks, the Timberwolves' only hope is that Finney-Smith and others miss open shots. If Gabe Vincent and company are hitting open shots, this is a short series. I don't think I'm being mean. I think the Lakers should win in 5. I don't know why this would go longer than 5. And I'm only saying 5 because I think Ant will have a 45 or 50-point game one time where you just can't do anything with him. But I don't think the Timberwolves are built to beat the Lakers. They have one of the great rim protectors in NBA history, but you don't think LeBron and Luka are not going to put him in every pick and roll action? They absolutely are. And he's going to have to drop coverage. And when you do drop coverage, somebody's wide open. This is a short series.
I think a big, determining factor of this series will actually just straight up be how do the Timberwolves guard the pick and roll? Because we know Rudy's going to drop. He's going to take away the roller. But, the problem they ran into last year, I think, and a big part of their problem was just how they defended the pick and roll. And it was more so with the guy defending the initial action. He would get screened off. Luka would wall him off, forcing a 2-on-1. Gobert would have to make an impossible choice. They're definitely going to have to fight to get around these screens or go under them. I think that's going to be huge. If they're just going to let Luka just pick off the initial defender and let Rudy get put into these 2-on-1 actions, then yeah, I think this will be a very short series because if you're going to give Luka the opportunity to either shoot a little, floater or a lob, both very high percentage offense for them, I'd be amazed if this made it to a 6 game. So I'm going to go Lakers, and you know what? I'll go Lakers in 6. I'll give Ant 2 games where he kind of staves off elimination.
You're a kind man. Like I said, the Lakers' third option, that's Austin Reeves, is a better offensive player than the Timberwolves' second option. We don't even talk about Austin Reeves, but he's a better offensive option than Julius Randle. There would have to be somebody on the Timberwolves roster that you, I, and anybody else, we're not talking about them, that has an amazing series outside of Anthony Edwards just saying, I'm going to average 40 for the series, put them on my back, and make it a 6-game series. By the way, is he capable of doing that? Absolutely. Would the fan and me enjoy that? With no hesitation. Look, he can average 50 for the series so long as my team wins.
And, that I think a big part of the reason, too, as to why I think that this does just hit a 6-game is because of Ant, because I don't think the Lakers really have a great Ant stopper, so I think there will be just a couple games where he just goes for like 50 and just goes ballistic and kind of is able to put him over the edge. But yeah, I don't think that overall they have enough offensive firepower for.
He needs to be aggressive too. If I'm the Timberwolves head coach, I'm saying this: like, I know you can get 45 or 50, but I need you to get to the foul line 10 to 12 times a game. You can't keep settling for contested threes. Like, with his quickness, with his handle and athletic abilities, you can put your head down and you can make a living at the free throw line. If he does that, it's going to be a very interesting series.
No, absolutely. So yeah, we'd say now this next one, Mo. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this one goes. I think this is another interesting series, and this one just might be the most unpredictable series of this entire first round. We got Nuggets and Clippers. In the 4-5 matchup, and
I think it is.
You could tell me that the Nuggets win. You could tell me that the Clippers win, and I would believe you either way. So, Mo, how do you see this going?
So rather than pick who's going to win, this is that one series when I'm going to allow myself a mulligan and just say it's a push. Because I can tell you why the Nuggets would win. I'm going to tell you that Joker's going to average 35, 13, and 12 for the series. I'm going to tell you that Aaron Gordon is going to be tremendous, cutting back door, rim running, and he's going to be tremendous on the defensive side of the floor. I can tell you that Porter Jr. Is going to shoot over 50% from three for the series. There's a path for the Nuggets to win. But let's be clear. If they don't get playoff Jamal Murray, if they don't get the Jamal Murray with his ability with the shot creation and the tough shots and be able to facilitate. If Joker doesn't have a rider, if you don't have a sidekick, they can't win. That really comes in. If Jamal Murray shows up, because you know where Joker's going to be, the Nuggets will win the series. But if the Clippers, who are actually one of the better defenses in the NBA, if they can't stop Joker, but they can eliminate Jamal Murray, clamp down on Porter, there's the path where the Clippers win, because I think they do have better perimeter defenders. They're also a deeper team than the Nuggets. Zubac doesn't have to try to outplay Joker because he can't do that. But what if Joker goes for the 30, the 12, and 10, but Zubac goes for 19, 13 with 3 blocks? That's, you know what I'm saying? There's a way where you can neutralize that production because of what Z can do. I think the Clippers are a deeper team, but the Nuggets come into that series with the best player in basketball, with the guy that does make guys around him better. I think it's a 7-game series. I can't tell you who wins. I think it's a push.
I am going to go Clippers in 7. I think that this will be a tough series, and I think that the Nuggets will win the Jokic minutes. Like, it's really tough to beat the Nuggets when Jokic is on the floor. The problem is I'm just not confident in them winning the non-Jokic minutes.
You know what I'm worried about? What I'm most worried about? Not just when Joker goes to the bench. And I'm saying this, you're going to appreciate this. I'm saying this as a fan of the career that he's had. I'm concerned about when Joker goes to the bench and Russell Westbrook's on the floor. I'm concerned about the Russell Westbrook minutes.
Yeah, and if you tell me that either James Harden or Kawhi Leonard are out there for the Clippers, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think that Big Z does enough to at least offset some of the Joker production, but I think Joker's going to go absolutely nuts. And I think he's going to get this to his 7th game. But at the end of the day, I just think the non-Jokic, players aren't going to have enough firepower. Jamal Murray's been hot and cold all year. Let's hope he heats up and makes this a fun series. But let's say if Jamal Murray starts heating up, they have guys that they can throw on him between, Man's a good defender. Obviously, they can throw Kawhi out there. They can
Nick Batum.
We got, James Harden can even take turns on him. He can survive for small stretches. I think that the Clippers have more bodies to throw at, someone like Jamal Murray, and they can kind of make sure he doesn't go off. So unless if like Michael Porter Jr. just averages 30 and starts like shooting like an absolute flamethrower, I think this will be close, but I'm taking Clippers in 7.
And I understand that pick. And we talk a lot about Kawhi because of how great he's looked down the stretch. And James Harden, he's been terrific all season long. I think another X factor for the Clippers is Norman Powell is another guy that can drop 30 on a given night. A natural bucket getter. The Clippers have more firepower. The Nuggets have the best player. I think it will be the best series in the first round. It really will. And as an NBA fan, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and why not go to the other 4-5 matchup? Because this one's also just very interesting. Of course, it's Bucks Pacers. I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously, I'm confident in my team. I'll just throw it out there right now. I think it's Bucks in 6. Mo, what do you think about this series?
I think that the Bucks, we talked about pace a lot because that is the key to this. When Indiana can play fast, they look like one of the better teams in the NBA. When you can bottle them up and you make them have to execute in the half court, they're not the same team. I think the Bucks go out of their way to turn it into a grinded out half court matchup. I think that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be an X factor. To me, when you look at those two players, Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr., Kevin Porter Jr. has been the one playing like a star, and Kyle Kuzma is the one that looks more like a role player. I think if you get Kevin Porter Jr. playing at the level that he's played throughout the season for the Bucks, I think the Bucks win this in 6 games. I think the Bucks find a way to slow down the Pacers. They find a way to not let Halliburton hide on defense, and they attack him to take his legs away. I think Milwaukee wins, and I know Dame's not playing game 1, and he may be very well rusty when he comes back for game 2. I don't think they have to have Dame at 100%. If you're getting production from Kevin Porter, if you're getting production from Bobby Portis, if Kuzma is just solid to go with Brook Lopez and Giannis, look, we both know you're a Bucks fan. You know better than most. Your team's not built to run because it's an older team. But if you slow the game down and it's a half-court game, the Bucks are winning this series.
Absolutely, and that's something I thought they did pretty well last year. Obviously, we still lost the series, but when, Danilo Gallinari's getting legitimate minutes in 2024, your series is just kind of cooked at that point anyway. So I think that a big part of this, too, is the Bucks just have access to instant half-court offense. Listen, a team like the Celtics have somebody that can, kind of guard Giannis better than most because someone like Horford is just bulkier and he can absorb that contact. The Cavs have a couple bigs that are bulkier, and kind of absorb the contact. When I watch Giannis play against the Pacers, a lot of their center, even like Miles Turner, for example.
He eats Miles Turner alive.
He's very more frail. Like, he's not bigger and bulkier, and he's not somebody that can absorb the contact a lot of the times. He's somebody that just kind of bounces off Giannis, and Giannis just gets to the rim. There's a reason why he, consistently averages 30 against the Pacers, because they don't have anybody that can just absorb the contact, stay in front of them, and contest shots. He just can generate instant offense at will. I think this is a series that'll come down to pace, and it'll come down to shooters. Obviously, they're gonna play off of Kyle Kuzma and dare him to shoot. He's got to be able to make him pay, and especially if guys like Kuzma are hitting. Yeah, I'm Bucks in 6. I'm confident. It's been a couple years, but I've seen Kuzma provide sufficient enough spacing in the playoffs to be playable, like with the Lakers. So I will take a chance that he at least shoots in the 35% range, and for me, that's good enough for Kuzma.
Yeah, and I think that if you're also the Bucks, you take advantage of the fact that because you have Giannis, you're able to get the other team, the opposing team, into the penalty early. If you know what I mean, that's what Giannis does for your team. He draws all those fouls, gets the other team in the penalty early. That is the green light for Bucks wing players to attack the basket to get to the free throw line because you're already in the penalty. I think that's another way to generate offense. I'm not saying they walk through Indiana because it's easy to say control the pace. Is another thing if Indiana snatches rebounds and they get out and running because everybody in their starting five runs. They're built to run. So it is a tough task for the Bucks. But you brought up a great point last night, and let me reiterate it. The Bucks' best defense against the Pacers' transition offense is the Bucks' half-court offense.
Yeah, and you know what? The Bucks are feeling themselves. We just played a game against Detroit where we got a random Pat Connaughton 43-10-5 game.
He's gonna hold on to that game forever.
Absolutely. So, and the thing with Pat, if he's actually legitimately feeling good and he shoots, like for example, I've seen him shoot like 40% from three in the post, even if he's at like 38% and he's playable and is able to stay on the court, that's huge because we talked about, Chris Middleton having this elite chemistry with Giannis, and he absolutely had the best chemistry on the team with Giannis when he was here. But the guy who had the second best chemistry on the team with Giannis, even more than, even Drew Holiday when he was here, was Pat Connaughton. Pat and Giannis have this very elite chemistry when they play together. Pat's always able to find Giannis on lobs. Pat knows where kind of Giannis wants you to be when he's driving to the basket, so he's always in the right spot. So I think a confident Pat that's, playing well, I'm not going to say that, he's going to single-handedly turn the tide against Indiana, but I also think that, that's clutch. If he's feeling himself, I think he's going to be an X factor in this series.
I like that. I like that call. One more little tidbit. If the refs allow them to play, I think that favors Milwaukee.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that series plays out. And, this is the series that I straight up wanted as a Bucks fan after last year. I wanted revenge against Indiana. And listen, they've been hot the second half of the year. This is going to be an interesting matchup. We know they'll attack Brook Lopez in drop coverage in the half court. They're going to be bombing away from three. Miles Turner is going to be shooting a lot of threes. So this will be a real litmus test on just how good and disciplined the Bucks are going to be at defending the three-point line. So I think this will be fun, a fun series. This is the best part about this year's first round, Mo. Like, I genuinely think, we're going to have every single series. Looks like it's going to be a fun series. Well, I think the 1-8. I just think the 1-8 matchups on both sides are just a sweep. But every series that isn't the 1-8, I think are going to be a lot of fun in their own different ways.
I agree with that. Look, we've said a couple of series we thought would end in 5. There's 5-game series, and there's 5-game series where every game in the 5-game series is a one-possession game. You feel me? Like it's a lot closer than it being a 5-game series. So I think I do agree outside of the 1-8 matchups because I think those are just going to be practice runs for the ones. Everything else is on the table and is going to be entertaining as hell to watch.
Yeah, and it's funny, normally I try to be optimistic, so I'd love to give you an optimistic take, like, hey, if the Hawks do this, or the Heat do this, but, I don't want to lie to you guys. I don't, unless if the Hawks or Heat or whoever comes out of the, Memphis-Dallas matchup just has, the greatest shooting series that we have ever seen in NBA history.
Memphis is an anomaly, right? They're an anomaly. They're look at where they're at. I think last week they were the 3rd seed. Look where they're at now. I think Memphis is going to beat Dallas. I feel like if Memphis can't beat Dallas to get the 8th spot, there should be some firings. This isn't one of them things where the Grizzlies have. No, everybody's fully healthy. You have your 3 best players. there is no excuse for them not to beat an injury rift Dallas Mavericks team. Like, the only GM that should be afraid of losing their job more than Nico Harrison should be the Grizzlies GM if they lose to the Mavericks in that game tonight. Period. There's no way they should lose that game. And I'll say this, if they win, Memphis goes into playing OKC. I think they play with house money. They're not expected to win. They might play that much better because really, if you look at them top to bottom, they can match up with OKC. They can. It's not a lack of talent. What they lack is leadership and discipline, but it's not for lack of talent.
I think the reason why I'm still picking sweep, even if it is Memphis, is I think OKC is just an absolute nightmare matchup for the Grizzlies. Like, obviously, their best offensive. They want to run the offense through Ja. The problem is with OKC is they have like 27, wing defenders that they can throw at Ja. You can run Shea, you can run J-Dub, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Zach Edey. Oh boy, he's going to have to try to defend, Chet. Or even iHeart has some range on his jumper.
Sure.
I just think that it's not necessarily a lack of talent. I think Memphis has talent. I just genuinely think if we just break down the schematics and X's and O's of the game and start looking at the matchups between the two, OKC just looks like an absolute nightmare because every single thing that Memphis wants to do, all of their strengths, just so happen to be things that OKC can defend absolutely perfectly. And their best players are just happen to be guys that OKC can just play off the court, unfortunately. And Jaren Jackson, I think that he could have a good series, but he also likes to foul a lot. And you have an elite, foul fader in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out there. So I'm not trying to downplay Memphis. It just feels like that it's just a really, really bad matchup. It felt like if they wanted to really make an impact in this playoffs, they would have had to, draw on the Rockets.
Look, I feel like if you're Memphis for the kind of season that you had, and you should win, again, they should win tonight, and you play OKC, why not play the best team in your conference and get it out the way right away? You're either going to play them and lose or play somebody ahead of time and lose them eventually down the road. I'll just say this. There's regular season OKC that I've seen over the last two seasons. Then there's postseason OKC that's not nearly as good as regular season OKC. So I know what to expect from SGA. I don't know what I'm going to get from J-Dub. I don't know what I'm going to get from Chet. I don't know what I'm going to get from a lot of those guys because most of them that were there last year disappeared in the postseason. So we'll see. There's one thing about being really great in the regular season, and then you get a postseason, and then the pressure mounts, and not everybody's cut like that. And I'm only saying that because in the bigger picture, I've already predicted I don't think Oklahoma City is coming out of the West. I don't. I don't know why. It's a gut feeling. You can call it what it is. I think there's something missing. Don't get me wrong. I expect them to fully win the 1-8 matchup. There's something about them that I'm just not sold on.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, I could very well see them not making out of the West. I think it'll be interesting. And I think overall, in the 1-8 matchups, I definitely think, the West in general is just the more interesting one. If Memphis wins, I think if Dallas wins, then it's probably just a 4-game blowout series, but where, Anthony Davis will go crazy. Like, he's just that good and that talented. But I am praying that it is Memphis tonight, and I'm praying that I'm wrong and they push the series to 6 or 7.
And you know what? No, go ahead. I was just going to say real quick. If Memphis does get there, let's say OKC beats them anyway, but I think if Memphis wins a game and then has a couple of more competitive games in the series, I think that might be good for Oklahoma City. Do you know what I mean? Like get into some dog fights and get ready for the next round. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything can't be a cakewalk. If you front run all the time, then you don't know how to deal with adversity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm definitely the West and the East, I think they're both going to be a ton of fun. I'm just hoping for some more iconic playoff matchups.
Agreed.
Give me some playoff matchups, first round in the same vein as like Bull Celtics from like 2010.
I knew you were going there. D Rose and Rondo just going at it, right? Remember that? That was a great series.
They had that one like double or triple overtime game where Ray Allen just kept hitting dagger after dagger.
Yes. Look, I was going to go a little bit further back. I was going to go Celtics versus the Hawks when Joe Johnson and company took in 07. That was a great series.
The Celtics are always like interesting and like with the big three, they just seem to like start off slow in the playoffs and then just kind of ramp it up. Like the first round would always go to 7, and then they just slowly just see them get more comfortable as the series progressed. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And just remember, by the way, if the 1 seed goes to 6 or 7 games, that's okay. We've seen 1 seeds get tested like that and still win the chip. So
right,
I don't want to see overreactions if the 1 seed, like if Memphis does push the OKC to 6 or 7 games. I'm okay with that. I know the overreaction will be, 1 seed are frauds, but like we've seen this before. Like, was it 2014? The Grizzlies pushed the Spurs to 7 games.
They did.
And everybody tried counting them out right after the first round because, it took 7 games, to beat the Grizzlies. And then they put on the most dominant finals win we have seen in a minute.
And look, if Memphis even took, what if the Grizzlies took it to 7 games? If Oklahoma, as long as Oklahoma City wins, I'm not one of those guys like they barely won. I'm just going to say I'm a bottom line it. They won a tough series. It ended up being a great series, but they won it because you know how that works. They win in 7, and then everybody's going to go, they're not that good, and then the second round they sweep. You know what I'm saying? Like series have their own, they take a life of their own. And sometimes it's really as simple as matchups make series. I'm only saying Memphis could be interesting because when you look at their core 3 versus Oklahoma City's core 3, they're not that different in terms of their age and their approach. It's now, obviously, I think the Thunder are better coached and they're a little bit more disciplined. But if you told me John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and you'd go SGA, Dub, and Chet, I don't think that's a blowout when you just look at those 3. The 3-on-3, there's not a huge separation. SGA is the best player out of those groups, but the other ones, really close.
Yeah, I think the only other reason I'm thinking like sweep is because like Mo, that like play-in game is still in my mind, and I'm watching the Grizzlies just unforced turnover after unforced turnover, like 20 turnovers, and I'm just like, even if you beat Dallas, like if you just have this turnover issue, it's going to be a nightmare. So I think a big key for the Memphis Grizzlies, stay disciplined. If you want to win, you have to play perfect. If you're going to sit there and hand OKC's free transition bucket after free transition bucket, they're going to run you up the court. So
I'm with you.
I think that's also going to be a huge factor. Is
we haven't even talked about that, but I'm with you. We're talking about matchups, and we're talking about OKC being better and what Memphis might be able to do. We are talking about the number 1 defense in the NBA. Let's not forget the team that leads the NBA in deflections and steals, fast break points through turnovers. You turn the ball over against Oklahoma City 19 times, it's not going to be a 1-possession game. Like, as much as people want to give the Warriors credit for winning, and look, they did win, the Grizzlies turned the ball over 19 times, and it was a 1-possession game.
And like the problem I had with a lot of those is like it wasn't necessarily always like this, elite defense tipped the ball. It's just like, no, it was a lot of it was just very much so just unforced errors. Like, hey, yeah, we're just trying to make this sloppy pass that was telegraphed by everybody sitting at home. So when you're facing an elite defense, like at the time, Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, they're going to telegraph that right, before you even throw it. And if you're lazy with your execution and just sloppy against OKC, every single OKC defender is going to be able to pick that up too. So
I agree.
I think the biggest thing for this series, if we want to see it get interesting, is simple execution and detail. If that is even close to what it was against the Warriors, I don't even know if we see Shea play a single fourth quarter minute.
If they're going to be like they were in the play-in game against the Warriors, that's a sweep. That's a sweep. Like I said, and the scary part about Oklahoma City that we don't talk about a lot is we know who their bigger name players are, but I'm talking about guys like Cason Wallace. I'm talking about Wiggins. I mean, those guys are bucket getters. Like everybody that comes off their bench can get you buckets, and almost everybody that comes off their bench can play defense at a high level. They're insanely deep to be as young as they are, and think about what they can do in certain lineups when you can play Chet and Hartenstein at the same time because Chet can play on the perimeter. That's insane what they can do. Look, I'm not doing pie in the sky. As a fan, I would love to see Memphis at least make them work for it. But would I be shocked if the Thunder swept the Grizzlies? Absolutely not.
It's funny because when it comes to the OKC defense, which I think is a ton of fun, it was like yesterday, Mo, when we were talking about, defensive, all defensive teams and whatnot. And I see people pushing for Lou Dort. So I put Lou Dort on my defensive team because I think he makes it. And I'm sitting there like, Lou Dort just might be like the fourth best defender on the Thunder. And like fourth or fifth best defender on the Thunder, and they were getting him on an all defensive team. Like that is wild to me.
I mean, you got Dort, you got J-Dub. I think Chet. Now he can't be up for any awards because he missed so many games. But I think Chet ultimately is going to win DPOY a couple of times in his career. Hartenstein is an underrated defender. Alex Caruso is an elite perimeter defender. So is Cason Wallace. Like they have, like you said, you're right. They have multiple wings that can play high level defense. And I think Lou Dort, I don't know if he's their best perimeter defender. I think he's their most physical perimeter defender. I would argue that J-Dub and Alex Caruso might be better perimeter defenders.
And the scary part, Mo, is you mentioned all those names and we didn't even touch on Shea yet.
Yes, SGA, right. Another great defender.
I don't know if we've ever I'm not even trying to overreact to this, but I don't know if we've ever seen a collection of perimeter defensive talent this deep and just a collection of defensive talent. How often do you see 8-9 guys that I can legitimately go, oh, he's an elite defender. Oh, he's an elite defender. He's an elite defender. He's an elite defender. I don't know if we've seen this deep of a collection of elite defenders. Them in Boston just are really unique in that regard.
And I think that's why a lot of people, when they go bigger picture, they say Celtics Thunder in the finals. And I get that reasoning. I get why you would say that. Because you could look at Boston and say similar things. Tatum and Brown are both terrific defenders. Then you've got White and Holiday. Al Horford's been a tremendous big defender for the longest time. Porzingis is a great weak side rim protector. They have defenders across the board. And OKC has defenders in their starting lineup. They bring in 3 different great defenders coming off the bench. I think the only difference is everybody in OKC is a legitimate offensive threat. That's what makes them scary. That they can turn defense to offense faster than anybody in the league. Even the Pacers can't make that switch the way OKC can.
No, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's going to be fun. Obviously, I'm just happy that Giannis made it to the playoffs healthy this year, and I hope it stays that way.
Agreed.
I at the end of the day, I think people just forget that there are playoff risers. We've seen plenty of them, and I think people sleep on just how elite Giannis gets in the playoffs. His game does hit another level, which is scary to think about considering how good he is in the regular season.
Facts.
It's when people are because he had that rough turnover in 2023 he almost threw the ball away, and people are he had such a bad game in Game 5. And I'm looking at it like, I think the man went for like 38 and 14, and that's like apparently a bad game for him. So I'm just excited to see it. I see people predicting that, oh, he's going to go on a 2018 LeBron level playoff run, and I'm like, please.
I think when you've got one of the true transcendent players in the NBA on your roster, even though the odds are against it, anything's on the table. I know what Giannis is going to do. I'm only wondering if everybody else that's beside him can come along for the ride and do their job. If I get Bobby Porter as being consistent, if Kevin Porter Jr. is going to play in the postseason the way he's played in the second half in the regular season, I'm good. I don't need Kuzma to be a star. I just need him to be an impactful role player. I think Kevin Porter Jr. is the better player. He's the more talented player. So I again, if Giannis is going to be Giannis, we know we're going to get 30-10 or 30-12 and 5 or whatever and defense at a high level. He just needs a couple of guys to come along. And if he gets a couple of guys to come along, just the way we saw other guys go on great runs. When Luka took the Mavs to the finals last year, let's keep it a buck. Before the playoffs started, you would not have told me the Mavericks were going to be in the finals, right? Let's be honest. We would have said that. But they went on a great run because they had a great player capable of doing that. I think Giannis could do the same thing. He just needs a couple of riders to go there with him.
Oh, I can see the vision already. Listen, I think the big reason why, Dallas was able to knock off OKC last year is PJ Washington, who's just not a good three-point shooter most nights, all of a sudden turned into like a 40% three-point shooter just out of the blue and just got super hot. So, you know what? Maybe that's just the Kyle Kuzma role this year. Like, we're going to get a matchup that people are going to, expect us to lose. Maybe we match up against Cleveland. Boom, Kyle Kuzma, 40% three-point shooter.
I'm only right, but dude, let's both agree. Don't things like that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's the beauty of sports, in particular the NBA. A guy like Kuzma, that I think for his career, he's about 35 or 34% from three. Certainly, he goes on one because Giannis draws so much attention. He literally has one job: catch and shoot, and he goes on one. Look, people think it's pie in the sky, but that's why I enjoy the NBA playoffs. You said it. If going into the postseason versus OKC, you told me like, Mo, Dallas is going to win this series because PJ Washington is going to look like Klay Thompson in his prime, then I would have bet on Dallas. I actually thought OKC was going to win. It didn't happen, but that's because PJ Washington looked like Klay Thompson in his prime.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite parts too. You get the most random playoff guys. I'll just go nuts for even just the series. Couple of my personal favorites, obviously, 2021 Bucks first round, Bryn Forbes outscoring Jimmy Butler was just absolutely hilarious to me. And then I'll even go with an example against us, like 2023 Miami Heat against us. A big part of that, Duncan Robinson shooting 75% from three in the first round, which is just absurd to think about.
My God. Yeah, I knew he was going to say Robinson. I was going to say Robinson too. Let me throw in another name. If you told me Caleb Martin was going to play like an all NBA player, then I would have been like, okay, Bucks are in trouble. Caleb Martin played out of his mind on that run.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part about the NBA playoffs. But our hour is up, Mo. We have concluded the part 2 of our quadruple double.
Part 2 down.
Anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
No, I appreciate the chat. I appreciate you for coming on, Big Dog. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you. And don't forget, we are doing a WrestleMania watch-along Saturday night 1 and Sunday night 2. Meaty Boys, let's get it.
Absolutely. WrestleMania watch along. I'm hyped for WrestleMania. You never know when I might pop in to do an NBA playoff watch along, depending how I'm feeling. So I'm definitely looking forward to this weekend. We're going to be bringing you a lot of content, and I hope you enjoy the ride we're taking you on. So, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely appreciate you Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.